Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Paul. Today's show, we have author and life coach Stirling Fernandez, who brings to us a delightful array of life-impacting insights. It's all about a vast topic of life mastery. And let me tell you, Sherry pulls it off. In this episode, we discuss the details of her excellent book, Life Mastery, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. We talk about so many different things. We will talk about being victims, about getting out of victimization, about how we can pursue life in a way that makes sense, that we can truly take control and be masters of our life. And Sherry is a fine life coach. She has had several businesses, gone from personal fitness to life fitness, and she has a desire to share that story with us and has done it so well. So let's welcome Stirling Fernandez to the next chapter with Charlie. Stirling Fernandez, it's so good to have you with me here on the next chapter with Charlie. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Charlie. It's nice to be here. I appreciate being asked.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into your book. But before we get into your book, which is titled Life Mastery, and with a very, very intriguing subtitle, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. I can't wait to see what that's about. You know, before we do that, I think it would be good to talk a bit about the events of your life that led to you writing this book filled with challenging and hopeful opportunities. Now, since I saw your bio and I saw your information, you and I experienced similar hippie days in the 70s, and you know, I say the trials, but the fun, all sorts of, you know, it's such a mixed bag of adventures in that time. And I'd like to ask you an unusual question, one that's not typically expected from those of us who experienced life in that period. What did you feel that you learned about life from the trials and the rebellions and all of that sort of experience? What did you learn about life in that period? Can you articulate that?
You're right. Nobody has asked me that question before, and that is a good question. And, of course, we can't hardly do anything without learning something if we just try. I think mostly what I learned is that I did eventually not want that kind of out-of-control feeling in my life anymore, feeling like I was just going from living day to day and going to one party to the next. I felt like at some point I had had enough, and I wanted stability.
Yeah,
that was more important to me. I couldn't grow in that environment very much because there was no consistency.
And at one point, at the early time, growth is not even an issue, is it? And then somewhere in the middle of it, you say, I've been doing the same thing for a long time, and I'm just the same person, and I feel like there's something different or something more profitable, something more exciting, something more adventurous in my life. And you sort of get that feeling as time goes on. And for me, it lasted about 8 or 9 years. I don't know how long it lasted for you, but it
probably
did
about 4 or 5 for me.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now, you know what was really interesting during that time for me? I was, I partied hard. I was a high-functional alcoholic drug user, and I had a very successful job where I grew from essentially janitor to a division manager in a decade. But that was all during that time, and so there was growth going on, but I was beginning to sabotage that growth, and there needed to be a great change in my life, and there was a great change in my life. Now, you told me that you found that many successful business people fall into the trap of a primary focus once they start their business and fall prey to productivity that it becomes a detriment to a balanced life. But you started a business about fit body that turned into fit life. Talk to me about your entrepreneurship. I know you had a construction business before that. So you really went right from hippiedom into yuppiedom and got right into the middle of the business thing. How did that occur?
Well, it was, necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. So when I got married, I was not productive in those years, Charlie. Good for you for being able to still at least grow in your career choices. So when I decided to settle down and got married, and one of the reasons I did that is I did have this child, and I thought I need stability for her, and she needs a father and that kind of thing. So I found somebody, fell in love, and we got married and all that. But he was from the same lifestyle, right? So we had wasted our years where we might have gotten an education. We came right out of high school and hit the road, different states. He was from California and I was from Idaho, but we had nothing. We just really had nothing. We had another baby not too long after we got married, and so there we were, these two little girls, and we just could not put food on the table. And here I was with all these ideas of I had so much I wanted out of life. I really wanted everything. I wanted financial freedom. I wanted no ceiling on my finances, but I wanted a deep spiritual life. I wanted a hot body. I wanted to make up for the education that I'd lost. I just wanted everything, and so I needed to go about finding a way to do that. And we were seriously struggling just to pay our utilities by Kim working two jobs, and I would take other children into our home, and we were just scraping to find ways to get by. So to me, the only way that looked like we could get out of it was to start our own business and develop ourselves to a point where we had the ability to start our own business and the other things that I wanted in life as well, to be fit and educated and all those things. So
what made you start your own?
It took really about a decade to get that first business where we were actually supporting ourselves.
What made you want to start your own business rather than going into, some sort of corporate or some sort of job and earning a salary, that you decided you wanted to be in control? What was the driver around that?
I think there's two things. I think I come from my family's kind of entrepreneurially minded anyway. My dad was a real free thinker, and I liked the doing it my own way kind of idea. And my husband was the same. And the other thing was kind of, again, necessity. We had missed the education part, and so we had to find another way to get ahead a little quicker. But I really believe most of my clients, interestingly enough, I still do coaching, mentoring, and most of my clients, and might just be who I draw to me, but they're entrepreneurs. And they're big thinkers with big ideas. They're not typically corporate kinds of people. And I think I draw that because that's how I am and that's how my husband is. I believe these people are kind of like born. I don't know. I don't think they become that way. I think they're born that way. But I think we just thought entrepreneurially. And in my mind, that was the best way to not have a ceiling on my finances. That way is what I did or we did, how hard we wanted to work, how clever we were, how well we run the business that would determine how much money we made, not another entity, whether it be a corporation or a boss or whoever. So I think it came to it naturally to entrepreneurship, but also I wanted the no ceiling. I didn't want to be dependent upon somebody else to tell me how much money, no matter how great that number was, how much money we could make.
Give you your schedule and your rules and your...
Right, somebody else's way. I think I would never, Charlie, I'd rather work 12 hours a day for free than work for somebody 9 to 5.
Oh, I am with you.
I've done it.
I am with you. I had 10 decades. I had a decade at a job, and after that, I've not really had a real job since then. I can't imagine going into an office or especially punching a time clock. I can't even imagine what that means.
I can't even either. Yeah, I can't either. Just the idea of it just is just so uncomfortable. So I feel the same way. I did work for a little bit just before I got married. I found a job in a really high-class place called the Trailer Factory. I was actually doing drafting, so it wasn't too bad a job. But once I quit that job, I don't feel I've worked my tail off all my life, but I never really felt like it was work. It was what I wanted to do, and whether it was in my home, we ended up with 6 children, so we were a busy family. or whether it was in the business or whatever I did, I always felt like I was doing what I wanted to do, so it didn't feel like work.
Isn't that the truth when you're in that flow state and in that is consistent with who you are created? It doesn't feel like work. It feels like what you were created to do, and it feels like you're just expressing your natural self. And I know so many people hear that and get disappointed with that because they have the regular jobs.
See, when I had my business, I could never bring myself to say, I'm going to work. That just sounded like not right. I'm going into Fitmania. I've got clients today. I've got to go to the gym, whatever it was. But I never ever in all those years I had that business that I'm going to work. That felt wrong. It didn't feel like what I was doing. I had an enterprise, and I was going to go, and I had people counting on me, and I was going to go take care of it. It never was going to work.
So I
never had to do that.
You are a go-to person. You are somebody that makes something happen. Now, something you said, 5 minutes ago, and you were talking about those early days of non-production, and you mentioned something that is still kind of haunting my mind, and you mentioned something that you were wasting your life. You know, I wonder, do we ever really waste our life, or is it just opportunity for something different? That it is not, it's not directly related to what we're trying to do, but indirectly it's giving us so much information, even if it's negative information, it's impetus to do what we want to do better. So talk to me about that. What do you think about, can you waste your life, or is it a learning time instead of wasting?
You've got options there, right? You know, you can grow. Older is not necessarily wiser, right? Some people grow older and wiser, and some people grow older and they don't grow wiser. So it depends on what you do with those. I think for you and for me that we learned something. If I didn't learn anything else, I learned I did not like not being productive. It didn't feel good, and that lifestyle didn't make me happy in the long run. I think it was important for me I've got a lot of energy and this desire to touch and feel and see everything. And I was picking the wrong, you don't have to see everything, you don't have to see the bad things, right? But I didn't know that yet. So it helped me channel that, and I did learn a lot of things, and I met my husband, obviously. I helped me decide what I didn't want. I did learn a lot of things, but you can choose whether to learn something from your experiences or just have them be experiences. You and I both have people who are our age, and we're a little bit older than most people, and we know people at our age that have not learned and are making the same mistakes they were making 20 and 30 years ago, right? So you've got a choice. You can learn from the experiences that you've had. I do believe this, and I put this in the book. I said this firmly. After talking about my childhood, which was kind of volatile, I have no resentment about my childhood at all, because if you like who you are, you've got to like everything that happened to you, because it made you who you are. If you don't like who you are, then you go to work and fix it. But every experience that we have makes us who we are. And I like who I am, so I am happy about those years because it helped form me and helped me become the person that I wanted to be. How it worked, I don't know exactly, but I just know that has to be true. That all of these experiences build one upon another to create who we are going to be. But it's still our choice if we're going to use them, grow from them, or we're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over.
That is so true, Sherry. It is just so sad that so many people cannot get over the past and believe the false stories that were told them, believe the negative experiences, and just think that they are somehow cursed or destined to continue to experience that, when that just is not the truth. It doesn't come just with an overnight insight. It comes with commitment, discipline, work. It comes with open-mindedness, willingness to see that other people maybe treated you unfairly, but there was also maybe some of it was your responsibility, and that you have access. I mean, you have agency to change those things that were negative in your life, and there are so many people, and as they get older, it seems seems to go a couple different directions. You get deeper into your negative pathology, or you sort of rise above it, and I don't know if rise above it is the right word, but you mature. And you mature into what is almost a lost art among many old people, and that is wisdom. And that you use your experiences, and to me, does not mean that you know what to do next, but you know, for other people, what other people should do next, but that you have the right kind of questions to ask them. You have the right kind of, have you considered X or Y? You know, I just was speaking with a friend who wants to make a major career shift at 70 years old, and I asked him a set of questions, and he just said, gosh, we need to talk. You know, because to me they were wise questions, and I wasn't trying to guide him in any particular way, because the guidance has to come from him. It has to come internally, but my role as an advisor with him, or coach, or whatever you want to call it, is to help him ascertain what those are.
And that's the value of a good coach or a good mentor, I think, is that's you help people see what they really want and ask the right questions. I think that's excellent. I have a reputation for being wise, and I don't say this to my clients until I know them pretty well, but I say that's because I've made so many mistakes.
Oh, I know.
If you learn from your mistakes, you can be really, really wise.
I know.
And so anyway, I certainly won't tell my children that when they were little, but that's really the truth. You know, a lot of the wisdom that I have came from the mistakes, and I made some whoppers.
Oh, of course. You have to. How do you not? You have to live in denial to say you didn't make some whopper of mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I might have made a few more than most, but I think the pendulum swung the other way now. I think I did a little better. No regrets. I was going to share a little experience with you. It just occurred to me, and I think maybe it's valuable to what you're saying, is when my parents divorced when I was 7, and there was 4 of us little girls, my mother, they each remarried, and that's a whole other story. But the thing I wanted to tell you here was that my mother married an alcoholic, and he's the kind of guy that marries a woman with 4 little girls. We'll just put it that way. And while the abuse that I suffered wasn't brutal, I was abused in that situation. We weren't there a long time. When my mother found out, she threw him out, and that was another thing. But years later, this happened when I was 8, 9. So years later, my parents got back together again. I'm a bratty 14-year-old, and we're having an argument. I'm sure I was just being bratty. And my mother said, "You're just mad because of what Max did to you." It had never crossed my mind to be mad about that. I never even thought about it. It was just like an event. And I don't know why I processed it that way. I know a lot of people are completely undone by something like that. And, of course, again, it wasn't as brutal as what some people have to suffer. But I've often thought about that. Whatever my mental makeup was, I didn't feel like a victim of that. And I've never really felt a victim of really even my own choices particularly. And I think that's helped me become who I am. I think learning, for people who don't, I came by it natural. I'd like to claim it. Like I did some kind of special work. I did it. It came natural to me, but I see very clearly the damage that being a victim of our circumstances versus learning from what's happened can really stop our personal growth. And in stopping our personal growth, it stops our happiness, because that's where happiness comes from. Nobody's happy when they're stagnant, right? Nobody's happy when they're in the quagmire of this or they're backsliding. There's no happiness, and that happiness comes from moving forward. But you can't do that if you're looking back and feeling like a victim.
Boy, we live in a culture that is very strong on both sides of the political spectrum in the victim mentality. The far right views that they're victims of somebody trying to take away what they have gained as possessions, and the left feeling victims because they never had anything to take away. And the idea of personal accountability, personal responsibility, that I have a say in all of this, and that I also have a responsibility to help. I think the people, the haves, I think it's incumbent on the haves to participate in the well-being of the have-nots. without a victim sort of guilt driven sort of behavior, but rather a compassion, societal responsibility that we are responsible to help all members of our society rise up. And neither one of those, the way I've explained it, are victim mentalities. Those are progressive, proactive actions that can make us a better society. Yet as long as we live in that victim mentality, that they're out to get me, I am the subject, and I have no chance, you do have no chance. If you're in the victim mentality, you do have no chance. And I so agree with you.
You do, because if you feel like you're at the mercy of circumstances and other people, then how can you take your life in your own hands and feel like you can move forward? You have to feel like you are in control of your own destiny, or you're not going to even make the effort. I don't even think you have the ability to make the effort to move forward. Two things about what you said there about the political divisions and some of the things that we see. First of all, I was reminded of something Jim Rohn said. He said that a man, first of all, as he enters adulthood, finds a way to take care of himself financially, then take care of his family, once he has a family, and then take care of as many other people as he can. And I think that's the natural order of life.
Yeah,
and
that's nice. I like that.
First, we learn how to take care of ourselves. Then we scrape a little bit trying to build our family and take care of our family. But when we're past that point, then we have a responsibility to take care of society. The other thing I was thinking about as you were speaking is, at the end of the day, we can't fix much of anything. All we can do is make ourselves better. If every person worked on themselves and became the best person they could be, we wouldn't have these problems, right? And so a lot of times we find ourselves wringing our hands and worried about the world and about the right and about the left and about the middle and who's doing what.
Yeah.
And we have no control. So it's a waste of time. If I have this philosophy, if I am not willing to go out and change something, to invest my time and energy, run for election, support a candidate, do something concrete that's really useful, not like stomping my feet and walking in the streets, but something really constructive. If I'm not willing to do something about it, then let it go. Stop talking about it and stop worrying about it, because it's counterproductive to me moving forward. It's just getting in my way. So either we do something about it or let it go.
Sherry, I've never heard anybody put it that way, and I think you're absolutely right, and it is a choice. There is a choice of where I want to contribute to the value of society, or that just is not important to me. What's important to me is my family, my personal security, my self-well-being, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to have, because that indeed is the American dream, is it not? That's what many of us at our age, especially, we were raised on that precept, that is what we are trying to do. And yet now in our culture today, there is another precept going on, and that is contributing to the value of society and contributing to the value of other people. But either choice, I like your proposition that you have a choice of going either way, and I don't see you making a value on the choice other than just own up to your choice and live to that and let things fall where they may.
Certainly we have an obligation to make the world a better place, and we find the place that we want where we can help fix things. I'm very passionate about the safety of women and children in homes. And so we're corporate pillars of a women's shelter here in Idaho that does a really good work, and we donate a lot of money there. We've done some work and volunteered and gotten involved in that. That's something that I want to fix. I want women and children to be safe, and I care about that enough that I will get involved. So then I feel like I also have the right to have an opinion about that. I'm invested in this, but I don't want to voice my opinion about a whole bunch of things that I don't know, and I know this very well because I'm deeply involved. I understand the issues. I've been trained. I don't want to be spouting opinions about things I don't really know about. I'm not going to really do anything about, or I can't do anything about. Would if I could, but I can't, because it wastes my time. It just gets me caught up in negativity that doesn't help anybody. and we get caught up in this negative cycle. We gripe and complain about the right or the left or the president or the mayor or the governor or the whatever it is. Vote him out of office, or just get back to work. I'm busy doing me. I guess that's my point. I'm busy doing me. I don't want to get caught up in things I can't fix.
Yeah, and the social surrounding you're in, you and the social surrounding that you're in, and my wife and I are very much the same way.
I think we just help where we can, and then we just get to it. The negativity is what's sinking us. It's the griping and the complaining and not seeing other people's will have their point of view, or that's what's going to be the death of us here.
Boy, we are sidetracking off the book. We're going off your book 100 miles, but I love where we're going, and I think that we are social beings, and that we have social responsibilities, and we have individual responsibilities, both of which intersect, and we need to take advantage of both. And what I want to do is, you talk a lot about self-mastery. That's what your book is about. And I'm sure that self-mastery has a corporate or social aspect to it. And so I want to get into that. But before we do so, why don't we take a brief break, hang in, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Charlie Hedges, and I want to welcome you once again to the next chapter with Charlie and my very special guest, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, who has written a book, Life Mastery. And Sherry and I have talked about life, the universe, and everything, about social responsibility, personal responsibility, about how you develop an entrepreneurial and a life that will make a difference on this planet. And I'd like now to do a bit of focus on Sherry's book and the very astute principles that she put in there. And Sherry, you told me that you found that many successful business people can fall into the trap of a primary focus on business and productivity to the detriment of a balanced life. That their life becomes only business oriented. And so you write, you started a fitness program, but then you also turned it into a life program. So you had the fit body and then the fit life. Tell me about the transition of how you moved from fit body and a very successful gym, would it be called?
Yes, it was a boutique fitness that we had. So
and we had, voted very high in Boise, right?
Yeah, and we did really well. We were voted best in Boise one year, second another year, and we had hundreds of people through the door, and we really made a difference because I didn't need to make a living off of it. I was able to do it anyway. Fitness is a tough business, but I knew what was right, and so we were able to do it the right way and help people teach truth principles and lifestyle, and we really did make a big difference by me and my staff, and my husband later, when he retired from his business, helped. So we did make a big difference in that. So that was Fit Meaning. Even when almost from the beginning, we had a personal development segment of Fit Meaning, which was Fit Life. Once people started getting fit, they had these principles they were learning and the self-discipline they were learning, then they wanted to go on and see what else they could do, right? I wonder I could if I applied these principles to my finances or to my work or to my relationships or to my spiritual life, whatever it was. So it was a natural segue from fitness into other kinds of personal development for people. It's why I put the physical self as the first chapter of the 8 segments of the whole life, because it so often starts there. Not every time, but most people will start there. They learn the disciplines they need and the joy of accomplishment and progress in the physical realm. I asked a couple times about the focus on business. Most of our personal development, self-help kinds of motivational literature I found as I was reading it and trying to pick out these principles for my own success was based in business or business finances, but mostly in business. They were business books that gave a nod to, yes, and but by the way, your relationships are important. Oh, yes, and by the way, your health's important. But their examples. They were business people who've been successful in business, and their examples and their approach was mostly about business. I tried to stay away from that, use examples that were more fitness or sports examples, personal stories, more well-rounded, because it's not, we always think of terms of success as people being financially successful or successful in their business. They're a very successful businessman, we would say, or they're very successful, meaning they were successful in their career. But that isn't real success if it just stands alone. If you lose your relationships or you lose your health, if it costs you too much, those other areas, it costs you too much. It's not really success. So I only work with clients who are willing to set goals in all 8 areas, because I don't want to help anybody find one area of success and lose. You can lose too much if you focus on one part. It doesn't have to be the finances. It could be you spend all your time at the gym and looking good and working out and playing outside. You could lose your relationships or your health or your money. So whatever areas that, if you focus too heavily in one area and you don't keep an eye on the rest, your success in that area can cost you too much.
What kinds of teasers or examples do you use to take someone who is focused primarily on business and productivity and to show them the wonder of a balanced life, that it is so much more productive than numbers, than dollars and quotas and goals, that the balanced life is what life is all about. Life is not all about business. How do you attract people to move away from the business productivity and into a more balanced life?
I don't ever feel like I have to have move them away from that. I just need them to catch everything else up to speed, right? So I don't, unless somebody's really out of balance, I don't ask them to pull back so much as catch everything up. So I do 2 things. First of all, 3 things actually. I won't work with people if they won't work in all areas again, because I want them to be happy. I don't think there's happiness in just being successful in one area. I could coach in fitness, or I could coach in business, or I could coach in any one of those areas, but I won't, because I just don't think it's healthy and productive. But the 2 things that I do is, one thing I do is I have them a lot of time visualizing what they want their life to look like. Usually I pick about a 10-year time frame, and we go in great detail. What does your relationships look like? What does your health look like? What are your finances like? What kind of a house do you live in? What kind of home do you have? What are your finances like? What's your business? What doesn't have to be exactly what you're going to do for money, but what kind of work is it going to be? So we're on a whole big picture in great detail of what they want, and they spend a lot of time on that, and they usually get pretty centered on that. And then the second thing I do, and they can see pretty quickly when things are out of balance, what's not going that way. The second thing I do is I have an assessment, which is free on my website, by the way. You can download that assessment. It's a very good one. And it asks 10 questions in each of the eight areas of life. And then you plot them on a graph. And then they can see very clearly. It's a very visual, it's on a round graph like a wheel. They can, very visual assessment of where they're at, because there's flat places on their wheel, right, because of things that they're weak on. And they see that very clearly. So then they know that we need to go to work, working harder in those areas where they didn't score as well. And then also, once we do that, then I'm working with them. When things start to be out of balance, I remind them, well, remember, you wanted this kind of a marriage. Is that choice going to get you there? You wanted this kind of a job. Is taking this other job opportunity going to get you to this kind of a career that you wanted? You know, those kind of questions as we aim towards that usual 10-year vision of their life. So those 2 things help people. If nobody says to you, I'm just going to, when they have their 10-year vision, I don't care about those other things. All I want to have a lot of money. I mean, nobody says that. They're like, they want a nice, warm, loving relationship, and they want their kids to be happy, and they want a lifestyle. They want to travel, and they've got a lot of other things they want besides money. They just forget that in the pursuit of their business success.
Do you find legacy is an issue that you face, or that comes up in 10-year goals?
Ask me that question again, Charlie.
Do you find that people want to leave some kind of legacy that falls within those 10-year goals that they have, or is that not a big issue at that point?
Probably not at the 10-year one, but as we get deeper into it, as we work on governing values, which is like a personal constitution, as we work, and this is all in the book, how to establish these things, but our mission statement, those two things help people think about more of a legacy. This is who I want people, this is the person I want to be, this is the way I want to be remembered, these are some things I'm going to have to do. So that comes up more as we talk about missions in life and, what is my ultimate mission and how do I serve and who do I want to be, what is my actual character going to be like. That's where we talk a little bit more about that. In the 10-year goal, that's early on in the relationship when I'm coaching, so we don't get there. I get there a little sooner in the book. Your process is quite extensive. I know you mentioned, and we're going to talk about the 8 areas of life mastery, but before that, you have missions and goals and a number of processes that you use before you even get into the 8 areas of mastery. What would that include? The idea there, especially in the book, is that we start with why, because if you don't have a strong why, the day-to-day work of personal progression of our dreams come true. I mean, it's just a lot of day-to-day work, a lot of goal setting, a lot of habits we're developing. So you want a really strong why to go into that. So I start with this simple fact that we are happier. We've talked about this earlier in our conversation, that we are happier when we're progressing. This is what makes us happy. In fact, this would be the very key to happiness, is personal progression. We are happy when we're moving forward, even if it's slow, which it usually is slow. Real growth really is slow. That's what makes us happy. But in addition to that, if I have a big dreams list, things I really want to see and do and feel and touch and be, and all these great big things I want to do, and I do have my clients do that very early on, and I suggest it early in the book, not because it's the most important, but because it gets you dreaming and thinking big. And, I'd like to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and I'd like to take Spanish lessons, and, I'd like to be on all 7 continents. And, we start dreaming about all these different things that we want to do. It gets people excited. And then we talk about, and in the book it gives instructions on how to develop your own mission statement, a one-line statement of how we give back.
Can you give me a couple ideas of mission statements, what they might sound like? Do you have those at hand, or is that too difficult?
Well, my own mission statement is that I use all my knowledge, wisdom, and personal power to empower others to live with purpose and passion and faith. And so it looks something like that. So one sentence you can bring to mind. So you can use it in little decisions, like when you come across somebody in the grocery store or at work, and you feel not like maybe lifting that person. You remember, I've got a mission, and so I've got to help this person. Or it can be a bigger thing, like, which job should I take? Well, this job meets my mission, and this one doesn't. So I'm going to pick this one because I've got this mission in life. And those are usually pretty innate in people, and they don't change much. Once they find those, they know this is really how I give back to the world. And then we do governing values, which is a personal constitution. So that gives you kind of a strong why. It's not the only whys, but gives you a strong why. And then I go into the 8 areas of life. But you want to build up enough excitement about what's out there in life and what our responsibilities in life are and what we want to be, that then we're willing to do the work.
It's so funny.
About the 8 areas.
I've been doing this work I wrote the book in 95, so we're talking 25 years, are we? That I've been doing this type of thing where I do write my mission statement. I have instead of personal goals, I call them my personal 10 commandments that I live by. I have habits that I have to do, and those would be your 8. And then I have something that we're going to close with, and that's a tracking system. And you have a tracking system, and I'm such an advocate of tracking systems. And I think we found out we're the only 2 people in the world that have tracking systems.
I know, you're the first person I've talked to that has it. I'm really going to buy your book. I'm really curious.
Well, I'll just send you the tracking system, and you can see it.
Okay, that'd be great. And mine's downloadable on my website at lifemastery.com.
I looked it up. Yeah, I looked it up.
Did you?
Yes.
It's not complicated. It's a very simple thing. It's almost
very
childish.
simple. Yeah, and mine is even simpler.
It has to be simple, or you won't do it.
No. And you know how often I evaluate my tracking system? Monthly. Monthly.
Yeah, me too.
Not weekly,
I love
not daily. It's just monthly, and I give myself a simple plus, check, or minus. And anything that got check, minus, or below gives me an indicator that that's something I could work on.
Yeah, something to work on for the next time. I love the beginning of a month when I write my new tracking sheet, fill in I brush up. Usually they're the same type of things. I don't change very much, but maybe I make a little adjustment here, adjustment there, and then I go at it again for another month. It is the lifeblood of the Life Mastery program. My clients, I've had clients from 10 years ago who still use the tracking system and will talk to me about their tracking sheets, or once in a while I get an email from somebody saying, hey, could you send me one of those tracking sheets? I'm going to get back into it. Very simple system. And again, they're free on the website. I give those away freely. I've done that for a decade because I believe in it so firmly.
Let's do this. We have about 5 or 10 minutes left. But what I want to do, believe it or not, in this amount of time is I'd like to rehearse so people know the scope of what you cover in your 8 areas of life mastery. Could you identify the 8 areas and then just pick a couple that you think are essential, that have come to mind, that are repetitive over and over? These are areas that people work on. Can you do that? Is that a reasonable question?
Yeah, that'd be sure. So the 8 areas are physical. Of course, our physical body. Our body is the instrument through which we do everything. We think, we feel, we move, we work, we make our dreams come true. So taking care of our body and the disciplines that we acquire in doing that. So that's the first one. And then spiritual. Ryan Holiday said that if our body were to go numb, we'd rush to the doctor, but a lot of us are walking around and we're spiritually numb and we don't even recognize it. So I think the spiritual awakening, which follows often with physical health. Then, of course, relationships, education, money, vocations, whatever it is you do in your productive time of your day. So even if a person's retired, they usually have some other hobbies or things that they do. So vocation can be a job, or it can be being a homemaker or being retired and serving at the senior center, whatever that is.
Sure. Then
lifestyle and character. And the ones that we always tend to work on that are essential, that the first things that people track are typically going to be physical things. I work out every day like that. Oh, I run so many miles. I eat so well. Things like that. People will often track spiritual goals and educational goals. I read this much spiritual material, or I meditate every day, or I pray every day. Those are often tracked. The education, I read every day, trying to be educated in my field. That's one that people track most often. Then we add other things as they get experience in and get some good habits down. You can't do too much at once. So I'd like to see people start with 1 or 2 daily habits that they're tracking, and then maybe add some more. I run at about 10. I usually have about 10 daily habits that I'm working on. Some of them always are the same. Some of them fluctuate.
Yeah, I have, of the 3 you mentioned, 2 are very important to me, and that is the spiritual aspect, and that just depends on your spiritual tradition, how you can tap into the innermost part of yourself, and for me, ideally with some sort of divine other, that there is something else besides you at work, but that that may or may not resonate with someone. So, you can stick to meditation. You can stick to, like Ryan Holiday, stick to Stoicism. Ryan Holiday is, that's where he finds his spiritual direction is in Stoicism. That's very important to me. And also education. I just did a blog and a podcast. A podcast was just published this week, and it was called A Weaver and a Thief. And I said that it's on the craft of creativity, and that I am a thief that steals threads of ideas from other people and weave them into a tapestry of my own. And so,
well, that's very well put. I love that. I would feel the same. That is interesting.
but
might feel that.
but education is critical. I must be reading in the areas of discipline that are important to me, plus in areas that I really don't know much about. And I think, this would probably help me, but it opens my mind and it keeps me objective and it keeps me creative in thinking. So we're right along in the same lines. I have to say, Sherry Stirling Fernandez, what a delightful chat we have had, and you are. I believe that you truly help your clients discover and develop a life that they really want. Now, I know you have programs and licensed coaches. What is that all about?
We have a number of coaches as the books come out, and I've been doing this is about my 30th interview, I think. We've had an increased interest in having people wanting some coaching, some mentoring in the Life Mastery principles, which we expected. And so we have developed a few more, with several experienced coaches and a couple new ones that have brought on that have been practicing these principles for a long time. These aren't people that this is new to. These are people who've been ex-clients of mine or still clients of mine, and have been practicing these things for years and years. Some of them for, almost as long as I've been teaching them. And so we have that available for people who would like to read the book or don't read the book, and they are interested in these principles and how to establish daily habits, how to live a well-rounded, productive, successful life, and would like some, not just, a lot of the coaching that we see is kind of like a rah-rah sort of thing, like get up there and go get them. We teach them, while we have spend plenty of time with people and their visions and their goals, we also teach them real skills to make dreams, some systems. Most people lack systems in their goals, and that's what sinks them. So we teach real systems, and then, of course, you've got your accountability. So that we have that available, and you can.
And will I get links to
doing.
that, so I can, so our people can get a hold of that, and also I'll put a link on for your book. But I would like link to your coaching and to you. So is that in the publicist material that I received? Or?
It is in that material, and it's lifemasteryinfo.com. It's that simple, and I'm available. Sherry at lifemasteryinfo.com. I'm very accessible. If people want to talk to me, well, email me. So don't call me. So they want to interact with me, they can email me, or do social media. I'm very responsive to people who've got questions because I have a mission, Charlie. I've got to live my own mission, so I make myself as accessible as I can.
Bless you. What a wonderful attitude. Thank you so much, Sherry. It's truly been a pleasure chatting with you.
It has, Charlie. I really appreciate you having me, and I wish you well in the things that you've got going on. I know you're trying to make a difference yourself, and I feel that, and I appreciate that. And I suspect you have a good following of people who are learning a lot from you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.